house and had coffee in those great huge cups. It was a nice place at that time. And then she went to California, and then when we got there, I went immediately to Traverse, and she went to be with some relatives that we had in Phoenix.
Okay.
And she stayed in Phoenix, and I went on to California.
Okay. All right. So now from California, you headed out to Hawaii.
To Hawaii first. But I thought that I had,
okay.
And I had visions of getting married in Hawaii, and Evelyn would come and join me, and then we would have 2 years in Hawaii, which was great. And I knew that I'd made the right decision because that was going to be a wonderful honeymoon.
Right.
It didn't work out that way.
Right. Right. Just one other couple of background. Did you have any brothers and sisters who might have been in the military?
I had a brother who was in school with me at the same time, and he also accompanied me. And he volunteered for the draft. He was married, and so for whatever reasons the military had, they did not accept his offer, and so that he went on to private practice, and with his life he had been married, just not that long, but he was married, and so he was not in the military.
Okay. Okay. Right.
But they also serve who stand and wait, and if there had been a reason, he would have been the first to line up and do it.
Oh, I agree. That's
a patriot.
That's one of my favorite quotes by Milton and Miss Grossman.
Right.
Now we tease one another about that frequently. So now you're headed to Wake Island, and this is in 1958.
Yes.
And what did it feel like being in the military, a commissioned officer in the military, at this stage of your life, at that point in time?
I thought it was a wonderful thing to be able to serve, and at that time, to be an American soldier was something very nice and important. And we had just prevailed in the Second World War. We had gone through a recession in 45 to 55. By this time, there was a recovery, and it was a nice time.
Okay.
There were great songs, great bands, great orchestras. The country was coming into its own. Construction, roads were being built. There was an attitude of expectation in the country.
Okay. All right. Once you got to, well, let's just say now that you're
Wake
traveling,
Island, and then we got the orders, and then we went to Japan and Tachikawa, and then at Tachikawa, I was there at the Air Force Base in Tachikawa for a short period of 5 or 6 hours.
Okay. And
by now I'd been en route 2 days. And you hurry up and wait, but it was all interesting and exciting. And then this sergeant came up, another one. That's not the same sergeant, but they all looked the same. They were all Air Force, and they all had lots and lots of stripes on their sleeves, and they all knew exactly what they were doing. And he said, "Lieutenant, your orders are here." And I was happy to have orders to go anywhere by that time.
Right.
And then I got into this 124 and headed off for Kunsan, Korea.
Okay. All right. What was it like in Korea your first day, your first couple of days there?
Wonderment.
Okay.
This island made up of volcanic eruptions, and with very agrarian society, certainly different than anything that I had seen in the United States.
Okay.
But I had traveled to Europe. I'd been in France and Romania and Yugoslavia and Italy and Mexico and so on. So it was primitive and agricultural, and the fields were plowed with oxen. And a lot of hand activity with planting rice. And of course I knew the history a little bit of Korea and the Japanese occupation. And on the base at Gunsan, that had been an Air Force base for the Japanese during the occupation of Korea, prior to the Second World War, when the Japanese were in their heyday in China, and when all of the Koreans had been given Japanese names, and the rice that was grown there was sent back to Japan, and they were largely a tributary state. And so they'd been oppressed for a long, long time. And so it was interesting, and it was like taking a geography or anthropology or course, and I was interested in people. I learned a few of the words initially, and met some of the individuals. Martial arts, I spent some time learning judo with Japan. I was at the Kodokan, and every day was different. Plus, I was assigned, and I was in charge. I was commander of the dental dispensary, and at that time when I got there were no physicians, and so fortunately there were many individuals who were medics who had gone through the Second World War, and this was like their last tour, and they had been through Normandy and through the entirety of Europe, and they were very, very competent, and I medically was very, very incompetent, and I learned a lot from these people. They had saved lives, and they had done things that I hadn't even dreamed of doing. And so it was a great thing. I remember telling the master sergeant in charge of the dispensary, I said, Sergeant, between you and me and the fence post, I'm competent to do the dentistry. I was well trained. Michigan was a good school, but not the other things. Very early on, there were fires, there were aircraft accidents and so on, and people had to be evacuated out, and they were taken care of by the personnel that were there. We got a physician shortly after that, and he and I became very good friends. But at that time, he said, I'll keep track of everything, and the paperwork was monumental, and of course they knew exactly what to do. Told the commander, the base commander was a colonel, and I said, Colonel, I just want you to know that I'll do whatever I have to do, but I'm not qualified for this. And then he said, well, Lieutenant, who on this base is more qualified than you? I said, nobody that I know. He said, well, then just do what you're supposed to do. And so I did. And that was a good thing. And I learned. And then Captain George Haddad, who was a very fine physician, again, very recently graduated, just like I was, but from medical school. And we were very good friends. And then I had a World War II major who was with the Air Police, and I can't remember his name now. It's been over 50 years, but we became very close. So the three of us had a sort of a place where we could drink coffee and discuss what went on, and support team.
Okay, do you recall what month that might have been when you got there?
Yes, it had to be sometime in October.
October '58.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So fairly cold out.
September. Yeah. Yes. As a matter of fact, during the Korean War, the majority of casualties that we had were not wound inflicted. They were frozen arms, the combat troops. And I have to tell you that I was not a combat troop. I was not a hero. I worked on a lot of heroes. I was always in a dispensary, either a tent or a Quonset hut or someplace where I was protected by a lot of good people.
Sure.
So I was fortunate, but again, they also serve who stand and wait. And then I remember the first time that I when somebody is burned,
Mhm.
one of the first things that happens physiologically, and I knew this because I had good instruction at University of Michigan Hospital and so on, and